A 20-something uncle was asked to babysit his nephew, who was only 2 or 3 years old at the time and still in the process of potty training. The uncle didn't know this, having never raised kids of his own. He just was asked by his sister, hang out with him, I'm going to run to the store, everything will be cool, I'll be back in just a few minutes. Well, after a few minutes go by, the nephew comes in, and as he stands in the doorway, in his little 2-year-old voice, he looks at his uncle and he says, Uncle, somebody pooped my pants. Somebody pooped my pants. Now, if you're a leader, a manager, an adult, a teacher, a human being who has been on this planet for more than, say, 15 years, you have probably realized that at some point, the poop in your pants is yours. It's really hard for someone else to poop in your pants. Now, the results are the same. The nasty, the stench, that ooey gooey feeling when you walk, all of that bad stuff that goes along with it. But at some point you have to realize no one has done that to you but you. Now, I'm also going to add to that if you're over 15 years old at some point, you've probably heard or maybe even said the words, look how you made me feel. Over the next several video episodes, we're going to talk about the attitude hack. This is something that I work with leaders of all ages on, from student government to federal governments of foreign nations. How the attitude changes in a small relationship, in a growing relationship, in a large relationship. And by growing relationship, I don't necessarily mean, although it's also true, that as it grows over time, as a relationship matures, attitudes change. That's true. The more knowledge you have of each other, the more conversation you have with each other, the more you grow up in your own maturity, the more the attitude of your relationship will mature as well. But what I really mean is how attitude is like the ripple in the pond. You'll see it on the book cover. When the book is released, it's like a color run. If you come in with one attitude and the person next to you has another attitude, they don't stay isolated. So if you're feeling kind of blue and they're feeling kind of yellow, by the time the day is over, you're both going to be kind of green. I want you to picture that in your head. The chalk dust flying around, the blue is all over you and the yellow is all over them, and then the green is the combination of the two of you in the same environment. Now multiply that as the environment grows. From one person to 2 people to 3 people to 15 people to 500 people. And you'll find that attitude is the only thing more contagious than a common cold. You've probably heard the phrase, the mob mentality. The mob mentality. The mob mentality is a way that attitude becomes a synergistic movement, whether intended or not. And with the right amount of energy, usually negative energy, with the right amount of energy, an entire group of people can be led to believe and behave in an unbelievable manner because the attitude is contagious. One person starts screaming and yelling and pushing for riots and violence, and then 2 people join in, and then 5 people join in, and soon you have absolute mayhem, chaos, out of control, destruction beyond measure, destruction that no one of those people would have done all on their own. That's the mob mentality. And it grows exponentially as it spreads across a group. Now, the reality is we normally see that in the event of a riot or civil unrest or something of that nature, that it gets that big out of control, but it's the same kind of thing that drives a prison riot. It's the same kind of thing that drives a school rebellion. It's the same kind of thing that drives a civil war or a rebellion, and that is that attitudes unchecked and problems unresolved become a growing concern, and as they spread, they will draw people into it. And in all honesty, from a geopolitical aspect and from a social and cultural aspect, you'll see people that if you just ask them down the line, how do you think about this issue? How do you feel about this issue? If removed from the mob, they may not even agree. Chances are that very polarized opinion and feeling and reaction is a singular reaction, but it's close enough to the reaction that I would have, the way that I think and feel about that, that I will join in because of social likenesses or cultural likenesses or geographical likenesses. Now, granted, sometimes when rebelling against an authoritarian or a tyrannical leader, you've got to get the masses fired up. Maybe you've seen the movie Braveheart, when the character played by Bruce Willis runs up and down, is it Bruce Willis? Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, yeah, that guy. Runs up and down the fighting line yelling freedom. And he gives them this great speech about how much they should hate the people on the other side, and it riles them up. And they are ready to go to war. They're ready to die in this fight because of the words that he said. Don't mistake for a moment that you have to reach the fevered pitch of war before words like that will inspire people to do things that otherwise would seem insane. Middle school students do it to each other. You ever seen the movie Mean Girls? The battle lines of Braveheart and the behavior of Mean Girls is not different. Their mindset, their ideology, their ability to be influenced, their ability to be driven in a certain direction, all of those things are the same. And the attitude expressed by the leader that then becomes the attitude of the crowd, which then leads the actions and behaviors of the crowd, which then becomes the lifestyle of the crowd. That process is the same every time. If you think I'm kidding, just hide in the corner sometime and watch in a daycare or a play area. My grandson, who's between, he'll be 3 this month, right at the end of the 2s and coming into the 3s, his communication skills are getting a little better. His observation skills are getting a little better. We took him the other day to the Chick-fil-A playground. And I just sat and watched as he played. And his mood would change based on who else was in there. There was one little boy that came in there and he had 2 sisters, and this boy was probably 10 years old, maybe 8 or 10 years old. His 2 sisters were probably 5 and 6 years old, and they just wanted to play with him. And he would run from them, and he would scream at them, and he would yell, "Don't be touched by the girls." And he would get my grandson to follow him everywhere. Come on, don't let the girls touch you. Don't let the girls touch you. You got to get away from the girls. Get away from the girls. Ew, girls are nasty. And so here's a 3-year-old who plays with everybody just fine. But while this influence is there, he doesn't want to have anything to do with the girls. He's screaming at them. He's running from them. He's yelling to get away from them. He's acting just like the influencer who's creating mayhem and unrest. Yeah, it happens in pre-K and kindergarten and 1st grade and 5th grade and 10th grade and sophomores in college and young elites. Because attitude is more contagious than the common cold. And the person with the most prominent attitude, and by that I mean the most expressive, often the loudest, or even if it's not verbally loud, it's manipulative in another way. You've probably worked around someone who's, let's see, what's the word for it? I think everyone knows it. Passive aggressive. They don't say, "I don't like you," but it's pretty clear to you they don't like you. And if you work in the environment with a passive aggressive control freak type of a leader who doesn't like person A, but really likes person B, person C through Z knows it. And they know that if you want to be on the right side of this leader, you will ignore that person. Because if I see you talking to them, you're on that list. And if you're on that list. And you know what I'm talking about. It happens in the classroom. It happens in the school lunchroom. It also happens in politics. You can't be my friend and their friend. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to choose. Either be my friend or be their friend, but you can't be both. That kind of childish manipulation usually happens when the passive-aggressive person deals with a lot of insecurity, and they get their worth and they get their identity from who likes them and who doesn't. Their level of influence is really all that matters to them. If they can manipulate the right people and get the right results, they're happy campers. But the minute they feel like someone else may have more influence, someone else may get better results, someone else may be able to influence the team, now they're up in arms. And they will make up drama. They will. They will make up drama to maintain that sense of control, even if it's only a sense of control. They will make up drama in order to remain the passive-aggressive leader of a team. They will make up drama in order to control things through their attitude. What is attitude again? It's what you think plus what you feel. That equals attitude. 2 plus 3 equals 5. 3 plus 2 equals 5. 5 minus 3 equals 2. 5 minus 2 equals 3. That formula doesn't fail. When you understand that attitude is nothing more than how you think about what you feel, and how you feel about what you think, that equals your attitude. Then your ability to control your thoughts, your ability to control your feelings will change your attitude. But your attitude can be manipulated by people who tell you how to feel about a certain thing, or people who tell you what to think about a certain set of emotions that come to you naturally. Maybe you've had that conversation with a sibling or a parent after a bad breakup, maybe a loss of a job, a bad grade at school, and you feel depressed, you feel like you failed in some way, you feel like you made a huge mistake, and you're just not sure how to put your finger on what went wrong. And this well-meaning outsider might see the situation and say, well, don't be so hard on yourself. Maybe they were just stupid. Don't be so hard on yourself. Maybe it was time for that to be over anyway. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's just the one grade. Don't be so hard on yourself. It could have happened to anybody. And while there may be some truth to that, if it stops you from the introspection that allows you to say, what did I do wrong and how could I prevent this same feeling and thought combination from coming up again? Have you ever found yourself with a bad attitude and you're not even sure where it came from, but you're thinking, I don't like this. I don't like the way I feel right now. I don't like the thoughts that are going through my head right now. See, that's when it's time for you to really sit down and analyze your thoughts and then ask yourself, why do I feel like this about that? Have I thought that same thought process before? Did I feel the same about it then? Did I come to the same conclusion? And if the answer is no, not really, I mean, honestly, I've thought about that before, but I didn't feel the same way about it, then you're going to have to ask yourself what has changed. What circumstances have changed? Is it that passive-aggressive person in the office that's telling you, you should feel like this about that? I'd be mad if such and such happened to me. Young marriages suffer from this. Young marriages, especially that are too close to mom and dad, that stay close to their families when they're in their early, and I understand the support and the need for help with the kids and sometimes financial support. I get all that. But sometimes the joining in on the bandwagon, the jumping in, the piling on that comes from all of my family supporting my ideas, right, wrong, or otherwise, because they love me, and all of her family supporting her ideas, right, wrong, or otherwise, because they love her, can often lead to a tension that rips the relationship at its very core. Well-meaning, and yet with really bad results. if my wife and I were to have an argument, or you and your spouse were to have an argument, and my mother were to only see it on my side and only have pity for me and only be able to see that her baby boy isn't getting treated the way that she as mommy would like it to be, then she might say things, oh, you just need to leave her because she's no good anyway. If she can't see how awesome you are, if she can't see how special you are. You see how that attitude is starting to seep in there already? How you think about what you feel is pushing its way into the relationship. And it may be well-meaning that I just want to defend my child. But that attitude sometimes is an unresolved conflict between mom and daughter-in-law. And so now you've got a friction that has leverage in the middle, and the fulcrum is the husband. It's the son. See how that attitude begins to play in there? It's the same type of manipulation that happens when a new person comes on board and one particular employee is afraid they're going to lose their position because of this new employee. And so they begin to wrench on the attitude, on the thoughts and the feelings. Did you see what that person said the other day? Did you see that email? I saw. Let me forward that email to you because, wow, they were just, how stupid that they would think like that. How stupid that they would feel that way. And so they begin to turn the wrenches. They begin to manipulate. They become the fulcrum to pry the supervisor against the new employee. I know you've experienced that. It happens again at all levels. The new kid comes to school and someone begins to pry against their group of friends to make sure this new friend doesn't get into the group. I've had it happen to me as a grown adult. And in fact, in the last 5 years, there was an organization that I became aware of. I started hanging out with some of the people in the group, wanted to join the group, asked to join the group, and found out that someone else had already blackballed me in the group who was a brand new person in the group. But they felt like my presence and their presence in the group was going to be a problem. And they literally went to the leadership of the group and said, if he joins, I'm out. And then invested a lot of money in the group and said, if I'm out, my money goes too. And they begin to turn the screws on a bunch of other people and say, if he's in, I'm done. Well, as time has played out, the evidence is, as they say, the proof is in the pudding. It's sad that people feel like that's the only way to conduct their life. It backfired. It cost him huge. Cost him a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of relationships. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be me. But you've probably experienced that in your own life and not been able to really put your finger on it and go, I see what's happening here. It's attitude. Sometimes it's the attitude you get. Just recently in the news, a young man opened fire on an older guy at the train depot because the older guy told him to pull his pants up. He was showing his drawers and showing his backside. The guy just looked at him and said, excuse me, have some respect for yourself. Have some respect from us. Pull your pants up. This 19-year-old turned around, pulled a gun, and shot the man in the leg. There's something wrong with his attitude. The way he thinks and the way he feels and the way he feels about what he thinks, something in there is all messed up. It's not supposed to be like that. It shouldn't be our reaction to someone correcting us that we pull a gun and shoot them. There's something wrong there. Now, as we go over the rest of this series of videos for the Attitude Hack video series, we're going to talk a little more about the contagious nature. We're going to talk a little more about the thought plus feeling reaction, and maybe even break down some very specific attitudes like the attitude of excellence versus the attitude of complacency. We might even compare the difference between the attitude of resignation and the attitude of complacency so you can begin to see the significant difference between them. But here's the thing that I want to leave you with today. I want you to understand that attitude is more contagious than the common cold. And it doesn't matter what environment you're in, your attitude will spill over onto the people around you. And the attitude of people around you will spill over onto you unless you are consciously aware and intentionally asking yourself, is this truly the way I feel about what I think? When I think those thoughts, am I in control of them, or is that just someone else's outside input? And is that really the way I want to feel about what I'm thinking? Or if I'm emotionally reacting to something, is that what I want to think about how I feel in this moment? I feel angry. I feel like I'm upset about my coffee not being the right coffee. Do I really want to think hateful thoughts toward the person behind the counter who made my coffee? See how that attitude can get out of place so fast? I want you to be thinking about that until the next video. I want you to really be consciously aware of what you think and how you feel, and ask yourself, am I thinking and feeling by my own choice, or am I being influenced by someone around me in this contagious nature of attitude? Until I see you again, thanks for watching. I am J Loren Norris, and you've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.